Hello and welcome all Board of Examiners and anyone in attendance for today. My name is Omar Pena and I will be presenting the Emergency Operations Plan for Morris Heights. Course is EMH 490, Emergency Plan Project, and everything in this briefing is unclassified and can be found via the web. Terminal Learning Objectives. Action. Present a PowerPoint presentation. Conditions in a virtual environment given my selected topic. Standards in accordance with evaluation rubric for a formal plan presentation. Outline. I'll be talking about community needs, community inclusion and planning, risk assessment process, hazards and risk, key resources and capabilities needed, budgetary concerns, exercising plan according to the Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program principles, plan and communication and maintenance, conclusion and references. Community needs. Here are just a few that I have identified within this area that will be needed during the course of the hurricane, which would be medical services, food and shelter, money, housing, disaster prevention measures, restoration of critical infrastructures, sanitation equipment and services, transportation, education, and psychological care services. Apart from urgent medical and emergency interventions, which include ambulatory care, hospital admissions, and evacuation, the affected population requires psychological care services, sanitation services, and equipment to cope with the adverse health, physical, and psychological effects of the hurricane. Similarly, the Morris Heights community would need transport, education, infrastructure, which include restoration of roads and railways, schools for their children, public education on emergency actions to alleviate the risk posed by the hazards. Community conclusion and planning. Public participation. Some of those could be community meetings. Effective and clear communications. Representation through community leaders. Mapping community priorities. Transparent identification of stakeholders, adopt community priorities for quick and impactful projects. Multiple community meetings in different locations over several weeks or months would help capture public opinion and interest. Communication materials should be simple and easily accessible formats. Due to the strong oral tradition in most community events, using group discussion and brainstorming could improve communication quality and effectiveness. Holding preliminary meetings with elected and other community leaders to enlist their support for community plans would increase public participation. Allowing communities to prioritize impactful projects would solidify public support and galvanize the locals' participation in planning. Risk assessment process. Identify hazards such as natural, biological, chemical, and mental hazards. Determine vulnerable groups and how they might be harmed. Study the demographics. Assess risks and take precautions. Record findings such as hazard types, people affected, mitigation methods, review and update assessment. During my assessment of the Morris Heights demographics, what I found was 70% of the population there is Hispanic or Latino. So possibly having some type of bilingual personnel on the ground to help facilitate and help a lot of those individuals there pass through and identify what's going on with them would definitely alleviate some of the problems there. As well, during the hazard identification process, I researched on the potential hazard that Morris Heights residents were likely to face due to the hurricane. And the risk evaluation process involves seeking expert opinions on the likelihood of a hazard occurrence and the potential severity of the hurricane. Assessment reviews and updates were necessary to match the intervention processes, equipment, and personnel used to mitigate the hazards. Hazards and risk. Heavy rainfall and flooding will lead to contaminations, possible drownings, and also waterborne diseases. High winds would cause destruction of buildings and crops. Tornadoes, destruction of property and death. Loss of power, disruption of life saving medical services. And tidal surge, such as drowning, infrastructure destruction, and injuries. Heavy rainfall, high winds, tornadoes, and a total surge pose public health threats, including contamination of water, food materials, and an increased waterborne infection. Similarly, the hazards cause homelessness, loss of businesses, infrastructure destruction, injuries, death, and family separations. Key resources and capabilities needed. I identified here sheltered operations and services, food supply, continued medical treatment, schooling alternatives, counseling services for traumatized people, evacuation and emergency care, public communication for warning alerts, sanitation equipment and services, financial assistance, and legal help. This is going to be key here because we're going to be having a lot of people where they lost businesses or water damages to their home, excess loss of the whole home completely, car submerged. So a lot of that legal help and the financial assistance will come in handy, as well as bringing into the sanitation team to help sanitize the water and possibly getting some potable water for the residents here in the area due to all the damages and everything that has been restricted in their area. Budgetary concerns. The hike of commodity prices, inaccurate estimates of operation costs, insufficient funds, financial misappropriation by individuals and the emergency team, time needed to complete the budget, blame for outcomes, inaccurate estimates, and fund misappropriation. During emergencies, prices of essential commodities such as medicines, food, water, housing are likely to increase due to the high demand. Besides, insufficient funding by the local, state, and federal governments, as well as financial aid from non government organizations. Creating an accurate budget requires time and expertise, especially during the disorganization caused by the hurricane. Exercising plan according to Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program Principles. Senior Leader Guidance. City Mayor will provide direction and overreaching guidance. Informed by risk. Risk evaluation will inform plan priorities, capabilities, and objectives. Capability based and objective driven. Exercises will aid evaluation of current capabilities. Progressive exercise planning methods. Whole community integration. Community engagement through the program. Common methodology. Same approach across the jurisdiction for shared understanding. This is definitely key because if one of us is talking a different language than the other, then we're going to have a disconnect and we might not get the plan going accordingly, and all the exercises might fall apart. So we need to make sure that everybody's on the same page so we can continue to move forward. The New York City elected leaders under the city mayor will offer necessary guidance and direction for planned exercise, as well as oversee the evaluation of the emergency program. The progressive approach will encompass the use of multiple exercises aligned to the shared program objectives and priorities. The integration of the whole community occurs during the program management, design, development, evaluation, and improvement. Plan communication and maintenance. Communication methods, some of which I identified, are memos, town hall meetings, newsletters and flyers, emails, phone calls, and text messages. You also have some other ones out there, such as social media. You can use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That may be another more modernized communication methods for other younger folks or younger residents in the area. Also, planning for maintenance. Set up a monitor implementation in the program, so like that we see what's going right, what's going wrong, some type of checklist, so we're going ahead and evaluating everything and making it effective. And then depending on how that goes, we'll be updating the plan simultaneously so everything is going according to plan without any hiccups. Conclusion: Morris Heights community needs medical, housing, transportation, and food assistance. Community inclusion is achieved through representation, communication, and priorities. Major threats are floods, tornadoes, power loss, transportation interruptions, and high winds. The Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program principles will be used during the exercise. Effective communication and plan maintenance are critical to the program's effectiveness. If any one of these steps is missed, then we're failing the overall objective of the plan. These are all critical things that we're going to need to accomplish and overcome this hurricane. Don't sit back and try to look for other necessary things that may not be there. These are the ones that we need, and we need to continue to work with that. And my references, I listed 3 there. Of course, I'll give you some time to look over it, do some of my background research, how I found everything, and how I made my evaluation and made this plan perfect for the Morris Heights community and the residents. If there's nothing else at this time, this concludes my presentation, and thank you for listening.